Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you're watching this video lecture. Today let us discuss about accounting standard 29, that is provisions, contingent liabilities and contingent assets. So broadly there are three items which are covered by this standard. One is provisions, second one is contingent liabilities and third one is contingent assets. Naturally, this standard will tell how a provision has to be created in the books of accounts if required, and contingent liabilities and assets should not be actually reported within the financial statements. They have to be reported outside the financial statements as a disclosure requirement only. They should not be recognized, in other words. Provision is something that should be definitely recognized and that should be shown within the financial statements also, naturally, on the liability side of the balance sheet. But the point is, what is a provision, when the provisions can be created, and what are the various aspects that we should keep in mind while dealing with provisions that are made in the books of accounts by any organization. So what is a provision basically? It is a liability. Provision is a liability which can be measured only by using a substantial degree of estimation. That is why we are calling it as a provision. It is not a liability which we know exactly how much it will be. But yes, we can do an estimation of such liability and create a provision for that liability. That's what is a provision all about. So it is a liability which can be only measured by using a substantial degree of estimation, that is called as a provision. Then, for normal understanding, automatically a question comes, what is a liability? Liability is a present obligation. So a very important point here, it is a present obligation, not a future obligation. It is a present obligation of the enterprise arising from past events. So that's what is a liability, simply speaking. It is the present obligation of the enterprise arising from past events. Of course, if it is already settled, why would it be still called a liability? We are calling it as a liability because the settlement of which is not has already happened, but it is expected to result in an outflow from the enterprise of the resources embodying economic benefits. That is always the common point as a phrase. So inflow of resources embodying economic benefits is an asset. Outflow of resources embodying economic benefits is a liability. But in case of a liability, it is a present obligation which has arisen from the past events, and the settlement of that liability is expected naturally in future, and that will result in an outflow from the enterprise of certain resources embodying economic benefits. That's what is a liability. Then, what is an obligating event? So this is an important word. In case-based questions, we may have to refer this. What is an obligating event? Where can we say that it is an obligation? Everything is not an obligation. But what is an obligating event? It is an event which creates an obligation and that results in an enterprise having no realistic alternative to settling that obligation. Of course, as the name itself indicates, obligating event is an event which creates an obligation, naturally. But what is the point here? The enterprise has no alternative to settling that obligation. It has to settle. Then we can say it is a real obligation, and that event which resulted in that obligation is called as an obligating event. So the enterprise does not have realistically any alternative to settling that obligation. It has to settle that obligation. That is why we are calling it as an obligation. And that obligation, which is a present obligation, resulted from the past events which would be settled in future and which is expected to result in an outflow from the enterprise, is called as a liability. And provision is nothing but a kind of liability which can be measured only by using a substantial degree of estimation. These are all the key points related to understanding what is a provision. First of all, it is a liability, simply speaking. So it should have the characteristics which are shown in the definition of liability. It should be a present obligation, it should be arising from the past events, and it should be expected to result in an outflow in future. And obligation means it is something which the firm or the organization or the enterprise has no choice but to oblige it. That's what is obligation. So that is the basic understanding of what is a provision. Then the question comes as far as AS 29 is concerned, since this standard is about recognition of provisions, when the recognition of provision should be done. When? And this is the crux of AS 29 when we talk about provisions. A provision should be recognized when? You have to be able to reproduce these items. If a question is asked, you have to write them and then answer the case-based questions. So when a provision will be recognized in the books of accounts? First of all, an enterprise has a present obligation as a result of past event, already as we discussed. And second, it is probable that an outflow of resources embodying economic benefits will be required to settle that obligation in future. That also we discussed that same thing. And most importantly, a reliable estimate can be made of the amount of the obligation. When all the three conditions are satisfied, then only a provision should be recognized. Otherwise, no provision should be recognized if these conditions are not met. What are the three conditions? Condition number 1, there should be a present obligation as a result of past event, and there is a probability that the enterprise will have certain outflow of resources embodying economic benefits in future so as to settle that obligation, and a reliable estimate can be made about the amount of obligation. If all the three conditions are met, then a provision can be created for such an obligation, which is nothing but a liability, which is now provided for. Of course, liability is there in the balance sheet itself means it is not yet settled. If it is settled, why would it be there in the balance sheet? So it will be settled in future. But is it a liability already? Yes. Is it a present obligation? Yes, it should be. Then only provision should be recognized, and that present obligation should have resulted from a past event, once again, not from a future event which we don't know. If that is the case, that becomes a contingent liability. The occurrence or non-occurrence of such future event is not in our hands. That is not which warrants a provision. That becomes a contingent liability, which is completely different, and we will discuss that also as part of AS 29. But when we look at provision, when we talk about provisions, it is a present obligation resulting out of past events. That is the first point. And in future, it will generate certain outflow of economic resources. And we should be able to estimate the amount of such obligation in order to recognize a provision in the books of accounts. So if all the conditions are met, then only a provision should be recognized, otherwise no. So these 3 points you should always remember to refer when case-based questions on this standard are given in the examination. Then there are certain principles we can say which have to be kept in mind while creating a provision. These are general principles we can say, but AS 29 clearly tells these things have to be kept in mind. These things have to be taken care of while recognizing the provisions in the books of accounts. What are those major items which have to be kept in mind? First thing is the provision, whatever we want to recognize as a provision in the books of accounts, that should be the best estimate of the expenditure. Of course, it has to be, we all know that. That's what is mentioned by AS 29 also. Whatever the provision we are creating, it should be the best estimate of the expenditure required to settle that obligation. And this best estimate of the provision and the obligation is there present at the balance sheet date. And another point here is the amount of provision should not be discounted to its present value. That is another point. It should not be discounted to its present value. If whatever the obligation is there, it should be just shown in the balance sheet as it is. And that amount which is shown in the balance sheet as a provision should be the best estimate whichever can be made about the present obligation, which of course will be settled in future. So the first condition that the organizations have to follow is they should make a best estimate of the provision. Second thing is they have to consider the risks and uncertainties also into consideration. They have to take them naturally, because settlement is not happening now. Settlement is happening in future. When we say future, risks and uncertainties are always possible. They are inevitably common to occur in future. So, if at all there are any risks and uncertainties which surround the events and circumstances, those should be also taken into account while reaching this best estimate of the provision. So, first of all, the provision should be the best estimate. Second, while calculating or ascertaining that best estimate, we should also consider the risks and uncertainties that might be attached to the situation. That is a second point to be kept in mind, and care has to be taken by the organizations while making that best estimate. And if at all there are some future events which may have an impact or an effect on the amount required to settle an obligation, they should also be reflected in the amount of provision, of course, where there is a sufficient objective evidence that they will occur. Always everything, whatever has to be recognized, it should have an evidence that it has a possibility of occurrence in the future. If it can occur, those future events might not completely change the situation of the liability, but they may have some impact on the amount required to settle an obligation. Maybe those events can increase the amount required or decrease the amount required. But the point is, depending upon what the future events might also have an impact on the amount that is required to settle an obligation, the provisions have to be estimated, or we can say these things also should be reflected in the amount when we calculate the provision. Of course, none of these things we can apply for examination problems and all, because these are all realistic things in real life. When the organization actually creates the best estimate of the provision, what it should do, it should consider the risks and uncertainties also. It should consider the possible future events also, which might have an impact on the amount of final settlement that can happen related to this obligation. That is also to be taken into consideration. That is what AS29 has suggested. And if at all, again, there are any expected disposal of the assets, if at all, there may be some expected disposal of the assets which might have an impact on the settlement of obligation. If that is the case, the gains from such expected disposal of the assets should not be taken into account in measuring a provision. Why is that? Once again, prudence concept, conservatism. If there are any expected gains, we should just ignore them. Don't consider them also while measuring the provision. That is another point to be noted while creating a provision or calculating the amount of provision that is required. And another important point, case-based questions can be there on any of them. So you should be able to just write theoretical aspects. Best estimate should be made. Risks and uncertainties also should be considered. Future events, possible future events which can have an impact on the amount of settlement also should be considered. If there is a gain that is expected from the disposal of the assets, that should be ignored, that should not be considered. If, for example, there is any or all of the expenditure that might be reimbursed by another party, if at all, there is a possibility that whatever the expenditure that we might have the possibility of incurring in the case of settlement of the provision, which was a liability, maybe that obligation would be reimbursed by another party. For example, let us say there is an electronic goods dealer. So there is a dealer who deals in electronic goods, and he purchases a lot of things, say refrigerators, televisions, etc., washing machines from different manufacturers and brands. But this dealer will give some warranty, let us say, to its customers. So the warranty which is extended by the dealer is a possible liability of the dealer. Why? Because out of the goods that the dealer has sold, definitely there will be some percentage of goods which might require replacement or repair or maintenance or some reimbursement if the warranty says so. So definitely that is a current obligation of the dealer. But though it is not going to be settled now, it will be settled only when the people who are the customers of the dealer will ask for their warranty to be settled. The settlement of it will happen in future. But is it not a current obligation of the dealer or not? Yes, it is. Has it resulted from the past event of selling these goods to the customers or not? Yes, it is. So should the dealer create a provision for that warranty? Yes, better that is. To create a provision. Yes, he has created, let us say. But he is not the manufacturer, right? So what he will do, maybe he will get this warranty amount, whatever it is, reimbursed from the manufacturers. Maybe. In that case, that means what? He is getting a reimbursement of the expenditure that he is probably going to spend in fulfilling the warranty to his customers, but the same amount might be reimbursed by the manufacturers who are selling him these electronic goods. Then what the dealer should do? Should he create a provision for this warranty or not? He should. That is the point. But he cannot just like that say it will be reimbursed, so I don't have any liability in between. I'm only just acting like a postman. No, he cannot say that. When can he say that? The reimbursement should be recognized when and only when it is virtually certain that the reimbursement will be received. Guaranteed reimbursement. That much strict terms are there in relation to the reimbursement. Then only the reimbursement should be first of all recognized. Otherwise, reimbursement should not be recognized at all. But the point to be noted once again here is reimbursement is a separate account. The provision for warranties is a separate account. Just because there is a possibility of reimbursement, we cannot reduce the provisions with that reimbursable amount. So there will be a liability. If at all, let us say there is a guarantee or virtually it is certain that the reimbursement will be received. What this dealer can do is, he has a liability in the form of a provision, let us say for warranties, which is on the liability side of the balance sheet. He created a provision. How does he know that? How much of the warranty liability will be there? He doesn't know that. So generally on the basis of past history, say 3% of sales he creates as a provision, let us say, for warranty related expenditure which might result in future. But it has resulted from past events. It is a current obligation of that person that we have to understand. How much is the obligation? That we don't know. That requires an estimate. So that estimate was, let us say, 3%. And he created a provision for warranties of 3%. Can he reduce the amount that is reimbursable from the manufacturers from this provision? No. He has to show separately on the assets side. So reimbursable amounts of warranties, that he has to show separately on the asset side. So asset side has a separate asset, liability side has a separate liability. But the point what AS 29 is telling is, creating provision is okay. That is already done. That is good and that has to be done for warranties. But reimbursement recognition should not happen automatically. Provision should happen when there is a possibility of this type of expenditure. But reimbursement of that expenditure as an asset should not be recognized if it is not virtually certain that the reimbursement will be actually received. If it is virtually certain that the reimbursement will be received, then the reimbursement can be recognized on the asset side. That too, once again, both of them are not yet done. We have to understand that. Both of them are related to future only. But on the other side, the events which have resulted in them have already occurred. That is a point to be noted. So in case of reimbursement, the asset related to the reimbursable amount should be created only when and only when it is virtually certain that the reimbursement will be received. That is another point mentioned in AS 29. Now, if there is any change in the provisions, is it possible? Generally, yes, naturally possible. The provision should be reviewed at each balance sheet date and adjusted to reflect the current best estimate. If there is any change in the estimate, no problem in that. That can be changed. On each balance sheet date, provisions can be changed on each balance sheet date to reflect whatever the best estimate at that date. Then very important point again is to use the provisions. How to use them? It should be used only for expenditure for which the provision was originally created or recognized. Because you created a provision for warranty. Can you use this provision to settle the bad debts that might have happened from the customers? No. Provision for bad debts is different. Provision for warranties is different. Whatever the purpose of expenditure for which this provision is created, that should be the expenditure towards which the same provision should be used in the books of accounts. Imagine if that purpose is no more required. That's all. Cancel the provision. No problem. Cancel the provision means reverse it. Earlier you have charged it to the P&L account. Now credit to the P&L account by debiting the provision. So if that much is not required, but that does not mean we can divert the provision from one head of expenditure to another head of expenditure. That is not permitted by AS 29. And one more point, this can be a case-based question. See, each of them are possible to be points in case-based questions. Each of them has a possibility. Future operating losses, can they be recognized? No, they cannot be. Future operating losses cannot be recognized as provision. First of all, we have to always keep in mind provision is a liability, and liability is a present obligation, not something future operating losses. We may have a possibility that, let us say, already a lot of economic downturn is there, maybe in the year, next year, we might have some experience of losses. For that future losses, can we create a provision now? Does it make sense? We should not make such provisions. Loss happens when it happens. But why are we creating provision here? We are creating a provision for meeting the liability in future. But that liability has arisen because of the past events only. And that liability is a present obligation only. Only point is how much will be that liability, we don't know. It just requires a bit of estimation, because of which, on the basis of past experience, we are creating a provision, and when the time comes to meet that liability, we use this provision to meet such expenditure or loss. That's what provision is all about. Future operating losses and all cannot be and should not be recognized as provisions. These are the key aspects related to the first point in this AS 29. What is a provision? When it should be recognized? What are the points to be considered while calculating and recognizing and accounting for provisions? Very important aspect of AS 29. Now moving on to the second aspect, that is contingent liability. What is a contingent liability? It is not a present obligation, first of all. It is a possible obligation. Possible obligation. Of course, that also arises from past events. But whether this obligation already existed? No. It may or may not exist. The existence of which will be confirmed only when the occurrence or non-occurrence of one or more uncertain future events not wholly within the control of the enterprise. That is the definition of contingent liability. If a question on contingent liability is asked, definitely should be able to write the definition at least, so that you can apply this definition in that particular context. What is a contingent liability? It is a possible obligation, also arising from past events. But the existence of that is not already known. It will be only confirmed when, maybe by the occurrence or non-occurrence of one or more uncertain future events. And those uncertain future events also not wholly within the control of enterprise. Then such possible obligation can be called as a contingent liability. That is one kind of contingent liability. Another kind of contingent liability also can be there, where there is a present obligation arising from past event, but it is not recognized as a provision. Why? Because one, it is not probable that an outflow of resources embodying economic benefits will be required to settle the obligation. It is not probable. Means outflow might not happen in future. Why should we provide for it? Maybe you can just call it as a contingent liability. Second, a reliable estimate of the amount of the obligation cannot be made. And if you remember, in the definition of provision, these two are important. Because of non-satisfaction of these two conditions, it was not recognized as a provision. We don't have to create a provision for that. Why? Anyway, it is not probable that an outflow of resources embodying economic benefits will happen to the organization in future. There is no probability of that. Second, we cannot estimate with reliability that how much is the amount of obligation. When both the conditions are not met, we know that provision cannot be made. However, can we call it as a contingent liability? Yes, we can call it as a contingent liability, because we could not recognize it as a provision by virtue of non-satisfaction of these two conditions. That is also something which can be called as a contingent liability. But basically, contingent liability is something which is not a present obligation, which is a possible obligation, which also arises from past events. But the existence of that might be confirmed only when the occurrence or non-occurrence of one or more uncertain future events, which are not wholly within the control of enterprise, may happen or may not happen. Because of that, whatever the possible obligation arises, that is called as contingent liability. Or even if a present obligation also arising from past events, if it was not recognized as a provision, since future economic benefits may not be going out of the organization and reliable estimate of that obligation cannot be made. In that case also we can call it as a contingent liability. What should we do with contingent liability? Of course, the contingent liability is not shown within the financial statements or within the P&L or balance sheet. It is not a real liability, so it should not be shown in the balance sheet. But it should be shown separately in the notes to accounts. When it is required to show it, when the disclosure is required for contingent liabilities. See, unless the possibility of any outflow in settlement is remote, means what? If the possibility of outflow is remote, then we don't need to disclose this also. If the remote possibility of any outflow, we don't have to disclose contingent liability also. But if it is not the case, it is not remote, there is a slightest possibility, not like 100% possibility, but there is a possibility of an outflow. Then an enterprise should disclose, only disclose, for each class of contingent liability at the balance sheet date. What should it disclose? A brief description of the nature of the contingent liability and, wherever practicable, an estimate of its financial effect amount wise, indication of the uncertainties relating to any outflow, and the possibility of any reimbursement, if any. So these are the things to be disclosed towards contingent liabilities, of course, in the notes to accounts. When this disclosure is also not required, if the possibility of outflow in settlement is remote, then that much disclosure is also not required. If it is not remote, then the enterprise should definitely disclose a brief description of the contingent liability, nature of contingent liability, what is the financial effect of that, and what are the uncertainties related to that, and is there any possibility of reimbursement. All these things have to be disclosed in respect of contingent liabilities in the notes to accounts of the company's balance sheet. Now, coming to contingent assets, this is something which is not at all actually to be recognized also, not to be disclosed also. Provisions are recognized and disclosed. Contingent liabilities not recognized but disclosed. Contingent assets not recognized and not disclosed. Of course, not disclosed where? In the financial statements. But it may be disclosed in the report of the approving authority where an inflow of economic benefits is probable. So when we say asset, are we talking about a probable outflow or inflow of the economic benefits? Naturally inflow. So what is a contingent asset? It is probably which is something which arises usually from the unplanned or the other unexpected events that give rise to a possibility of inflow of economic benefits to the enterprise. So there is a possibility of inflow of economic benefits to the enterprise in future, but we don't know whether it will happen or not. Once again, it is unplanned, unexpected. Maybe it will happen, maybe it will not happen also. But that will not arise that will not give rise to a liability. It gives rise to an asset. That means there is a possibility of an inflow of economic benefits. Then we call it as a contingent asset. So should we recognize contingent asset? No, that should not be. Any enterprise should not recognize contingent asset because that is against the basic principle, prudence. It should not recognize. But what should happen to contingent asset? Should it be disclosed in the financial statement? No, it should not be disclosed also. Need not be disclosed also in the financial statements. So it can be only disclosed in the board of directors report, let us say. That also is required only if the possibility of inflow is there. Then only it is required to be disclosed in report of the approving authority. Otherwise, there also is not required. Of course, they are assessed continually, and if at all it has become virtually certain that an inflow of economic benefits will arise, then the asset and the related income can be recognized. When that really becomes certain, then becomes real asset. Then only we can recognize it. Till that time, we cannot recognize that on the basis of expectations, guesswork, probabilities, future, optimism. All these things cannot be used for recognizing an income also, recognizing an asset also. That will not be correct. When it is virtually certain that yes, this income will arise, definite, guaranteed, then you recognize an asset and income. Otherwise, contingent assets, as long as they are contingent, they should never be recognized. They need not be disclosed in the financial statements also. At the maximum, they can be disclosed in the board of directors report. That too, if their inflow of economic benefits is probable. That is about contingent assets. AS 29 is all about these things. What is a provision? What kind of recognition criteria has to be met to create a provision? What are the factors to be considered while calculating and accounting for provisions? What is a contingent liability and what disclosures are required for contingent liability? And what is a contingent asset and how to treat that? That is AS 29. But of course, this is the summary of what we have understood, which can be directly useful for solving some of the problems. We have to check these things as a simple checklist type situation. Let us say there is a present obligation, okay, that probably requires an outflow of resources, and a reliable estimate can be made from the about the amount of obligation. So what should we do? Should we create a provision? Yes, a provision is recognized, and disclosures are required for the provision, of course. For provisions also disclosures will be there. Recognized itself is a top priority. Recognized things anyway will have to be disclosed at the end of the balance sheet as notes to accounts. But recognition happens only when there is a present obligation which probably requires an outflow of resources, and a reliable estimate can be made about the amount of that obligation. Then a provision is recognized. That's it. Disclosure is required. Second scenario, there is a possible obligation or a present obligation that may, but probably will not, require an outflow of resources. So it may not require or will not require an outflow of resources. If that is the case, then what is the need of a provision? There is no requirement of provision. No provision is required. But we can disclose it as a contingent liability. We can disclose it as a contingent liability when probably they may not require an outflow of resources. So there is a possible obligation, a present obligation that may but probably will not require an outflow of resources. In that case, there is no need of any provision, but contingent liability has to be disclosed. That is only disclosure, no recognition. Another scenario, there is a possible obligation or a present obligation where the likelihood of an outflow of resources is remote. As we have discussed already in the contingent liabilities also, you have to recognize or you have to at least identify a contingent liability and disclose it only when the outflow of resources is not remote. If the likelihood of outflow of resources is remote, no provision is required also, no disclosure is required also. Don't need to even look at it like a contingent liability. Contingent liability is not a liability. It is only an amount to be shown as part of the disclosure requirements. But in this case, no such disclosure is also required because the likelihood of an outflow of resources is remote. It is remote. Almost it is not going to happen. But it may happen, may not happen. Then no need of a provision, but still contingent liability can be disclosed. And there is a possibility of an outflow of resources, and a reliable estimate can be made of that. Then a provision should be recognized. These are the possibilities. Of course, contingent asset does not require any special mention because there is nothing about it. You should not recognize it also. You should not disclose it also. If at all there is a almost probability of inflow of economic benefits, and if the board of directors wishes so, they can show it in their report of the approving authority, generally the board of directors report. Otherwise, there is nothing that contingent assets need any kind of recognition, any kind of attention or disclosure or presentation. Nothing is required. But when it comes to provisions, recognition is also there, disclosure is also there. When it comes to contingent liability, recognition is not there, but disclosure is there. But if the likelihood of an outflow is so remote, no need to even identify any contingent liability, no need to disclose also, no need to provide also. That is the summary of accounting standard 29, we can say. Of course, this itself is a mostly disclosure related standard. So what should be the amounts for each class of provision that an enterprise should disclose? These are only for provisions mostly. So first of all, carrying amount at the beginning and at the end of the period. Provisions, starting balance how much, ending balance how much. What are the additional provisions made during the period, including increases to the existing provisions? How much freshly provisions have been made during the year, that has to be disclosed in the notes to accounts. And amounts which are used, which means which are charged against the provision during the period. And if at all there are any unused amounts reversed during the period, how much is that also has to be disclosed. So natural things like The facts related to how the provisions account has moved from the beginning of the year to the end of the year has to be clearly disclosed in the notes to accounts. What are those disclosures for provisions? First of all, carrying amount at the beginning and the end of the period, additional provisions made during the period, amounts used or charged against the provisions during the period, unused amounts reversed if any during the period. These are the disclosures for provisions according to AS 29. That's all. These are the aspects of accounting standard 29, provisions, contingent liabilities and contingent assets. Now let us quickly go through some of the problems which are given in the ICA material and some of the past revision test papers or past examinations. Some of them are numerical and most of them are case based also. But we have to apply the provisions of the standard accounting standard 29. Now, read this question. At the end of the financial year, ending on 31st December 2017, a company finds that there are 20 lawsuits outstanding which have not been settled till the date of approval of accounts by the board of directors. So against them, there are 20 lawsuits. And the possible outcome as estimated by the board is as follows. So possible outcome is given. First of all, in respect of 5 cases, there is a 100% possibility or probability that we will win. So what should we do? Should we celebrate now? Should we bring sweet packets to everybody? Or should we do something in the books of accounts? Nothing to be done. Let us win, then we will see. Accounting is not about probable wins. It is not. So just we have to ignore it. Maybe the management may be happy about them. We don't have to worry about them. Neither we have to recognize it, nor we have to do anything. That's what you should write. In the first 5 cases, because the probability is that the organization will win, the organization will not have any obligation. Maybe even if it has some winning proceeds that might happen in future, still we will not recognize that, because even if you consider it as a inflow of resources because of this win, we cannot recognize it since it can be a contingent asset. So that kind of contingent asset should never be recognized. Because we don't know the other details of that, no need to worry about disclosure requirements also. Anyway, it does not require any disclosure in financial statements. If the board of directors are so excited about it, they can write about what could be the positive impact this winning of 5 cases can create in their report. That is their choice. That has nothing to do with financial statements, for sure. Then, look at the next 10 cases. Next 10 cases, there are 3 different possibilities are there. Probabilities are also given. 60% probability is there for winning, 30% probability is there for losing with low damages, and 10% probability is there for losing with high damages. So once again here also, when we say that 60% probability is there for winning, there is no possible loss that we can estimate now. So 60% we have to just ignore. But the point is, when there is a probability of 30% and loss could be 1,20,000. So what can be the expected value of that? That we can calculate. 1,20,000 into 30%. That will be 36,000. Plus 2 lakhs into 10%. That will be 20,000, which means total of 56,000 rupees is a possibility. Not 1,20,000, not 2 lakhs, because we multiply the loss with probability, we get expected loss. So what is expected loss for the 10 cases? 36,000 plus 20,000, that is 56,000. Of course, when there are 10 cases, multiply with 10, that means 5,60,000 rupees provision has to be created for these type of cases. That is about these 10 cases. Winning, we don't have to worry, we don't have to even look at it. Same way for the remaining 5 cases also. Winning, we don't have to worry, let it be there. What about the other things? 30% of 1 lakh, 30,000. 20% of 2 lakh, 10,000. That should be 42,000. Right? Total is 72,000. But 72,000 into 5. 72,000 into 5. That is the amount of provision that should be created for those cases, because each of them has 72,000 on an average. So 3 lakhs 60,000 is the provision that should be created about them. So what is the final answer here? 360 plus 560. 9,20,000 is the total amount of provision that can be created. Outcome of each case has to be taken as a separate entity. Amount of contingent loss and the accounting treatment in respect thereof. So if at all, we have to show it as a contingent liability or a contingent loss, 9,20,000 rupees has to be shown as a note to account. Whether the provision should be created or not is again a definition that has to be followed. Whether there is any existing liability, do we know the judgment already? We don't know that. Are we already having a present obligation? We don't have that. We may have, we may not have. And that means it is going to have a future obligation, possible obligation, which might or might not occur, and that might depend upon the occurrence or non-occurrence of a future event, whether we win or lose. And that is not in our hands. That is in the hands of the judiciary, the judges. So that is definitely a contingent liability. The point is, how much is the contingent liability? If at all we want to show the amount, as the disclosure requirements of AS 29 clearly say, wherever possible, wherever practicable, the financial impact of the contingent liability has to be disclosed. How? This is how we can disclose it. So 1,20,000 into 30%, 36,000. 2 lakhs into 10%, 20,000. Total 56,000 into 10, 5,60,000. Plus 3,60,000 related to the next 5 cases. That was 30,000 plus 42,000. Total of 9,20,000 is the contingent liability. Is it exactly the amount or something? No, it is an estimate, obviously. But it is neither a provision nor a real liability. It is only a contingent liability. It has to be just shown in the notes to accounts of the organization. That's it. Next, another question. EXOX Limited is in the process of finalizing its accounts for the year ended 31st March 2017, and the company seeks your advice on the following. So let us see the situation and case here. The company's sales tax assessment for the assessment year 14-15 has been completed on 14 February 2017 with a demand of 2.76 crores. Sales tax, you can replace it with GST, no problem. Ultimately, it is the same. 2.76 crores demand notice has been raised by the GST authorities or sales tax authorities. The company paid the entire due under protest without prejudice to its right of appeal. First of all, they will ask us to pay. We have to pay. But then we will appeal that, boss, this is too much. This is not actually our liability or obligation. So the company files its appeal before the appellate authority, wherein the grounds of appeal cover tax on additions made in the assessment order for a sum of 2.10 crores. That means the appeal is for how much amount? 2.10 crores. So the point is, what should the company do? First of all, when the demand was for 2.76 crores and 2.1 crores is only disputed or we are contesting, that means definitely 0.66 crores we accepted as a liability. So create a provision for that first. That can be created. That is a real liability. So 0.66 crores is really the liability. For that, the amount has to be provided for. 0.66 crores has to be provided for. That is first point. Second point, 2.10 crores. 2.10 crores, we don't know once again whether we have to really bear it or not. We paid already. Paid does not mean we have that liability. If we win the case in future, maybe we'll get a refund of that. But as of now, we paid already. So whatever paid can be shown as an advance under the loans and advances. And the amount of 2.10 crores can be shown as a contingent liability, because if we lose the case, then only this 2.1 crores will really become a liability. So the ultimate answer here is 0.66 crores to be provided for, 2.10 crores to be shown as a contingent liability, and the same amount has to be shown in the balance sheet as advances which are paid under the asset side. That's all. Then, point number 2. The company has entered into a wage agreement in May 2017, whereby the labor union has accepted a revision in wage from June 2016. The agreement provided that the hike till May 2017 will not be paid to the employees but will be settled to them at the time of retirement. The company agrees to deposit the arrears in the government bonds by September 2017. So here already agreement has been entered. Is it a present obligation or not? Yes, it is. And for that, should we provide for or not? Yes, we should. Why? Because already the agreement has been entered into, obligation is there. So it is an obligating event for sure. Entering into an agreement with these laborers or labor union is an obligating event. So that obligating event creates an obligation separate definitely, and that obligation requires a provision. So for the year ended 31st March 2017, the company should create a provision. It is better to create a provision than itself. That's all. That is the second scenario of this particular question. Now, some other case-based questions or direct theoretical questions can be also expected from this standard. The company has not made provision for warranty in respect of certain goods, considering that the company can claim the warranty cost from the original supplier. So it has a original warranty from the supplier, which is reimbursable. Because of that, it did not create any provision for warranty. Is it correct? Answer is no. Of course, we have to conclude that by writing what is there in the accounting standard. So this is the text of the actual AS 29 provision related to reimbursements. As per this, where some or all of the expenditure required to settle a provision is expected to be reimbursed by another party, the reimbursement should be recognized when and only when it is virtually certain that reimbursement will be received if the enterprise settles the obligation. The reimbursement should be treated as a separate asset. That is the point. And it cannot be just ignored. The amount recognized for the reimbursement should not exceed the amount of provision. That is another point. So, asset should not be more than the provided liability. But still, in this scenario, they have just ignored the creation of provision itself with a claim that anyway we will get reimbursement from the original supplier. Why should we provide for? So, is it correct treatment from the company? Answer is no, it is not correct treatment. If at all they have a reimbursable possibility also, and that too, when and only when it is virtually certain that the reimbursement will be received, then they may create a separate asset in the form of reimbursement possibility. But they cannot completely ignore the provision. Provision has to be there as a liability. Reimbursable amount can be shown as an asset separately. These two cannot be nullified. These two cannot be just adjusted among themselves just like that. Of course, though it is not applicable, the point again to be noted is the reimbursable amount of asset cannot exceed the liability that is created in the form of provision. That is another point. But that is not applicable in this case. What is applicable in this case is though the company has done incorrect treatment. It has to create a separate asset, that too if the conditions of AS 29 are followed, and if it is virtually certain about the recoverability of that reimbursement, then it can create asset separately. But that does not mean it will just ignore the provision. It has to create a provision also. Definitely provision has to be created under AS 29 since it is a present obligation. Warranty is a present obligation, no doubt about it. So that is the answer for such kind of questions. Similar questions can be asked again, case-based questions. XYZ Limited is in a dispute with a competitor company. The dispute is regarding alleged infringement of copyrights. Competitor has filed a suit in the court of law seeking a damages of 200 lakhs. The directors are of the view that the claim can be successfully resisted by the company. How would the matter be dealt in the annual accounts of the company in the light of AS 29? Explain in brief, giving reasons for your answer. Once again, it's a contingent liability because we don't know whether the case will be won or lost. But again, we have almost the directors are confident that the claim can be successfully resisted by the company. So definitely that does not require a provision. Since there is no present obligation, we did not lose the case yet. There is no present obligation, no need of a provision for sure. Then is it a contingent liability? Yes, it is a contingent liability because it is dependent upon the occurrence or non-occurrence of a future event, which is not in our hands, which is not in the hands of or in the control of the organization. So it is a contingent liability. So what should they do? They should disclose it in the notes to accounts saying that so and so claim is there from the competitor. 200 lakhs is the amount or financial impact of that claim. So that is a situation which may happen in future. But at the same time, we are confident that we will be able to resist the claim or resist the suit successfully. Like that, they have to show it in the disclosures of contingent liability. What is the nature of contingent liability? What is the amount or financial impact of contingent liability? And what are the circumstances around or surrounding that contingent liability? All these facts have to be disclosed. Of course, in this case, there is no reimbursement and also there is nothing to disclose on that matter. So you have to write what is a contingent liability theory question actually. What is a contingent liability and why this is a contingent liability, you have to prove that. Then you have to also show what are the disclosure requirements of contingent liability in your answer. That is the answer for this question, theoretical question. Then another question, again, all mostly questions from AS 29 will be similar to this, case-based questions only. That is why a lot of theory has to be written. Lot means not stories. Straight to the point. Whatever is asked, straight to the point. When we have a question, let us say related to whether a provision has to be created, you have to clearly write what is the definition of a provision. And when you have to also clearly write when the provision has to be recognized. When there is a point related to contingent liability, you have to clearly write what is a contingent liability in that context, which of these points is applicable. One of them only is enough, not entirely. And what are the disclosure requirements of contingent liability? Just now, as we have seen in this question, those have to be made. And if at all there is anything else to be disclosed for provisions, those disclosures have to be made. And amounts have to be calculated if they are given like this. So the point is, whichever the point we are looking at, reimbursements is a point we looked at. We have to write that point. Whatever is the AS 29 telling about reimbursements, that has to be written and then it has to be applied to the current scenario. And finally, a conclusion should be made. What should be the best course of action for the organization for which we are trying to advise about accounting standards. These are the types of questions which can very well be expected in the examinations. Another question is also similar to that. With reference to AS 29, how would you deal with the following in the annual accounts of the company at the balance sheet date? So an organization operates an offshore oil field where its licensing agreement requires it to remove the oil rig at the end of the production and restore the seabed. 90% of the eventual costs relate to the removal of the oil rig and restoration of damage caused by the building it, and 10% arise through the extraction of the oil. At the balance sheet date, rig has been constructed but no oil has been extracted. So there is a present obligation already because there is a licensing agreement. Of course, that will happen in future. The settlement of this happens in future. But there is a present obligation. We have to do that. Question is, what should we do? How should we deal with it? Should we create a provision for it or not? Yes, we should create a provision for it. For that, you should write definition of what is a provision and why it can be recognized. And it can be recognized only when we can measure the amount of that, whatever the reconstruction cost or whatever this removal cost of the oil rig once the production is complete. So that cost should be measurable. It should be reliably measured. And that also will not be recognized 100%. Only 90% will be recognized here. Why? As of now, no oil has been extracted. So when we look at the cost structure of that removal, whatever the costs that are related to the removal of the rig, in that 90% relate to the oil rig and 10% relate to extraction of the oil. But oil rig is constructed, means 90% we can definitely recognize now as a provision of present obligation which will be naturally settled in future. Related to a past event, that event is licensing agreement. Is it an obligating event? Yes, it is an obligating event. We cannot escape from it. Once the oil rig is already constructed, whatever the oil rig has to be removed. And in that, whatever the cost of that removal may be, 90% has to be created as a provision. That is the first question answer. 10% need not be created since the extraction of oil has not yet started. Second question. During 1819, AS Limited gives a guarantee of certain borrowings of Brew Limited, whose financial condition at that time is sound. Okay. During 1920, the financial condition of Brew Limited deteriorates, and on 31st December 2019, it goes into liquidation. So the balance sheet date is 31st March 2019. Fine. Once originally the balance sheet date is 31st March 2019, what should they do? They should not do anything because they just gave a guarantee. And if the likelihood of this contingent liability is remote, there is no need to even disclose it. Forget about recognition. Why? Because they did not take any loan. Yes Limited did not take any loan. It only gave a guarantee. When that guarantee will be enforceable? If the guarantee, the person against whom the guarantee is given, if that person has defaulted, then Yes Limited will become liable. But during 1819, Brew Limited was financially sound. There was no indication that Brew Limited will default. So provision is not at all required, absolutely ruled out. Contingent liability should be shown or not, still not required. If the likelihood of occurrence of that is so remote, since the financial condition of Brew Limited was sound, we can say that likelihood of this occurrence of we having to pay the amount is remote. So no need to even disclose the contingent liability on 31st March 2019. But during 1920, definitely the financial condition deteriorated, and on 31st December 2019, it went into liquidation. So what we should do? Definitely when it went to liquidation means obligation is real now. It is not some future obligation. Already, because we already signed a guarantee, so it is a present obligation. So in the financial year 1920, Ace Limited should create a provision for that, because the obligation has become present. During 1819 or balance sheet date 31st March 2019, you don't need to create any provision. It doesn't have to. But if it is the likelihood of occurrence is remote, it doesn't need to even disclose. If the likelihood is not remote, maybe if at all it wants to show, it can show it as a contingent liability. Otherwise, that is also not required. Depends upon what is the case. So that's what you have to judge on 31st March 2019. But definitely on 31st March 2020, the amount has to be provided for. Now it has become certain. Certainty is there. There is no doubt here. So definitely that amount of loss or a possible obligation has to be created as a provision on 31st March 2020. That's it. That is the answer for such question. And this question was also given in the earlier examinations. A Limited provides after sales warranty for 2 years to its customers. Based on the past experience, the company has the following policy for making provision for warranties on the invoice amount on the remaining balance warranty period. So they create a provision for warranties like this. If the remaining balance warranty period is less than 1 year, then we create 2% provision. If the remaining balance warranty period is more than 1 year, then they create 3% provision. So very important point. Remaining balance warranty period is what we have to check, identifying whether 2% provision is required or 3% provision is required. And the company has raised the invoices like this: 11th February, 25th December, 4th October 2018. Amounts of invoices are given. Calculate the provision to be made for warranty under AS 29 as at 31st March 2018 and 31st March 2019 also. Also compute the amount to be debited to P&L account for the year ended 31st March 2019. 5 marks question. Very much possible. Similar question can be asked again. Past examination question. First, we have to show the calculations clearly in the examination. Naturally, the presentation has to be better. But let us take the essence of the calculations only here. Say, for the year 31st March 2018, first let us calculate. So, what is the scenario there? On that date, 31st March 2018, how many invoices are open invoices, which we still have warranty? 2 are there. One is 60,000, one is 40,000. But you have to check how much is the period, remaining period. This is the core thing. Remaining warranty period is how much on this 60,000 invoice. Invoice date was 11th February 2017, and 2 years means till February 2019 it will be. So the remaining balance warranty period is less than 1 year or more than 1 year? It is less than 1 year, because already 1 year has passed. 11th February 2017 to 10th February 2018, already 1 year is passed, and we are already in 31st March 2018. That means less than 1 year is there. That means on this 60,000, only 2% provision is enough. So 60,000 into 2% means 1200 rupees. Then another one is 40,000. 40,000, second open invoice, which still is under warranty. 40,000. So this sale happened on 25th December 2017, and we are preparing balance sheet on 31st March 2018. That means as on the balance sheet date, the invoice had a warranty period of more than 1 year for sure. So how much provision should be created? 3% should be created. 40,000 3% means again 1200. So the total provision that they should create on 31st March 2018 will be 2400. That is one thing. First question answer. Then on 31st March 2019, what are the open invoices? First we have to look at this. This is gone already. Why? By 2019 February, its warranty period is over. So this will not be open invoice again anymore. But these two are still there because this has a deadline of December 2019. This has a deadline of October 2020. And we are preparing balance sheet before that. So open invoices are those two. So 40,000. Now on this date, already 1 year has passed. That means balance remaining warranty period is less than 1 year. So on this only 2% has to be provided, which means 40,000 into 2% means 800. What about this 1,35,000 invoice, which happened on 4th of October 2018? That means definitely the warranty period is remaining warranty period is more than 1 year. So 3% provision has to be created. So 1,35,000 into 3% means 4050. So what is the total of this? 4050 plus 800 means 4,850 is the provision that is required on 31st March 2019. So on 31st March 2018, we need a provision of 2,400. On 31st March 2019, we need a provision of 4,850. But the question is also compute the amount to be debited to the P&L account for the year ended 31st March. Naturally, what is the amount to be debited freshly? Already 2,400 provision is there, but you need 4,850. That means how much amount has to be freshly debited now? 2,450 rupees has to be debited to P&L in the year 2018-19. So that end of 2018-19, the provision will become 4850. So that is the answer for past examination question which was given, which can be asked also again from accounting standard 29. With that, we can conclude this accounting standard 29 provisions, contingent liabilities and contingent assets. Straightforward standard, simple standard, but words have to be remembered. Mostly case-based questions can be expected from this. If calculation-based questions like the ones we solved just now are coming, then also you can solve those questions by applying the facts of the case to the numbers which are given. Fine then. With this, we conclude accounting standard 29. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.